If you got the goods, you can get away with a whole lot of mistakes in cold email and still get a reply.
Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Jeremy, founder of QuickMail.io.
Hey, and this is Jack from emailsthatsell.com.
Today,
Teardown.
Hey, Jack, just before we start, I've been doing some thinking lately. You know, our podcast won't be legit until we have a sponsor, right?
Okay, but haven't we been turning down sponsors?
I know, but it's hard to recommend something you and I don't use often, and we're already promoting the crap out of our services.
Fair point, but what about the course we just released? Wouldn't you recommend that to our listeners?
Yeah, for sure I would. All right, so how would we start?
Well, for starters, I wouldn't mention that it took us over a year and 3 trips to Japan and Switzerland to record the thing.
All right, let's not do that. But at minimum, I would want to mention where they can find the course. Like, let's put it to, I don't know, course.quickmail.io. Would that work for you?
It works, and then I could share what a few of those early students had to say about it. Like the one from Damien, who said it was by far the best course on cold outbound I've ever taken. Or what did Chris say? The week on sales research and targeting prospects blew my mind. Yeah, we definitely want that in there.
Yeah, I like it. It's kind of too easy. You know, people always say nice things when they get results. And at some point, we're going to have to come up with some hard sell copywriting materials of our own. And you know, I'm not that great at that. So I don't know, what would you put on the page?
Okay, how about this? Imagine that instead of getting ignored by prospects day after day, you could just follow a course that shows you how to book meetings with dream clients and automate the entire outbound process so you can focus on closing deals and scaling your company. Plus, there's that money-back guarantee and the 8 modules and the bonus podcast interviews. But so far, so good?
Yeah, I like it, man. But you know, I like your style. So anyway, all right, it's getting a bit late. So can we podcast now and review that later?
Yeah, but at least promise me that course.quickmail.io is finally live and people can finally try out the course right now.
Yeah, sure. I already put it live, and just so you know, I added that special price we discussed about for our podcast listener, and then we can leave it here until, you know, we're happy with the landing page. Sounds fair enough?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm excited about this teardown.
Special type of teardown, right?
Yeah, it's brand new. Tell them about it, Jeremy. Why is this a special one?
All right, this is a special one because I'm going to spoil it. I'm going to like them. It's not going to be a bashing thing, although I may find some area of improvements, of course, being the host I am.
That's definitely true. I don't know. Let's call this episode the cream of the crop cold email teardown episode, right? Because these are the stellar ones.
Yeah, definitely. So let me give you like a quick backstory to it. I was looking in my folder of cold email recently, and then one jumped in my eyes, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember this one was a really good one. And I figured out like, hold on a second, let me just go ahead and then try to find all the really good one and put that on a website somewhere. And so that's what I did. So now if you go to coldoutreachtemplates.com, you're going to find all the templates that I really love. And so I also asked, you know, a few of my friends, including you, Jack, of course, to forward to me some of the great templates that they received. And basically, I decided to do a collection of really good templates I can go back to and learn from them. And so I think it's a great idea to just do a teardown of the one I love.
Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah. So this is, if you ever want to know, because if you've been listening to a couple of teardowns, you know Jeremy is probably the number one hardest person on this planet to get a reply from. And everything on coldoutreachtemplates.com is, I would consider, a Jeremy reply-worthy email. So check it out. And I actually want you to send in, if you've ever gotten a stellar cold email, send it to podcast@quickmail.io and we'll throw it up there. Or I should say Jeremy will throw it up there, and the site will be better for it.
Yeah, please do that. I think it's a great idea. Let's try to do a collection of really good gems.
All right, cool. So with that being said, who's first up on the teardown?
So I think we should go for the AppSumo one. This is my favorite so far. And should we do it?
Yeah, I like it. Saving the best for the first. Let's do it.
And if you're listening to the episode right now and you have the ability to just go on the website, just go to the website, and so you can see it at the same time and, you know, have a think about.
Follow along.
Yeah, follow on, see where we are doing, what we're talking about. I think that'll be a good interactive exercise. If you're up for it. I think that's something worth doing.
Brilliant. All right, we're going to dive straight into it.
All right, let's do it.
Here's how it goes. Subject, promote company name to 850,000 entrepreneurs, ! Hey, first name, been hearing killer things about company name, so I had to reach out. We are hand selecting product category to showcase this quarter to 850,000 plus potential new customers, and we think company name would be a great fit. We'd love to chat about how we can make something exciting happen. Interested? ? Best.
Woo. Awesome. Okay, great one. Next.
Yeah. Well done. Moving on. Jeremy, you were excited about this. In fact, I think you said this was the best cold email you've ever received.
It's hard to say ever received, but it's definitely the one that I really love. I love it for a whole variety of reasons. But I'm kind of like curious, do you actually like it or not? Like, from
right,
holistic approach.
So I'm going to point two things out on this email. There's immediate value. Immediate value. Promote your company to almost 1 million people that you're trying to sell to. Immediate value. That's sort of like a campaign that we run that's like, hey, you want to come on our podcast? People are like, yeah, let's go. It's easy. It's like there's something that doesn't take a whole lot of effort in order for you to figure out. It's way one-sided in your favor in terms of benefit. And it's immediately communicated, which to me makes this a good email. But the second thing I want to point out is notice what they didn't say. Notice what they didn't say in this message, because AppSumo could pull up a whole lot of social proof, like we've also promoted brands like X and Y. They could definitely have done that. They did not. They could also have said, hey, we do this in a 4-week turnaround time so you could get paid in, within 30 days. They could have said that. They didn't. They also could have, mentioned the average lump of cash that the partners usually get after doing a deal with them. They did not say that, right? And I think that to me is my biggest takeaway is they focused on one benefit, which was promote your product to a bunch of people you want to sell to. And then they just said interested.
I love it.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. They went full on one piece of information. And I think this no fluff, make the message crystal clear.
Yeah.
Very easy to grasp, very easy to digest, very easy to take a decision. And notice that they didn't mention as well, this is how the deal is working if you're interested and whatever. They just say the next step is that, do I get your attention? Yes or no? It's beautiful. I'm almost crying,
It's poetry. Yeah.
It's poetry.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, perfect outreach.
Well, okay. I'm actually not quite sold on a perfect outreach.
All right.
Now, I think they have I wouldn't be surprised if they have a 50% reply rate on this on this one email alone, right? But I actually don't think this is the gem to study for a cold email template, because not everyone who's writing cold emails has this kind of value that they can share with a list of prospects. This is an unfair advantage, something that if you work with a good outbound agency or you have a good SDR in your team, they will be able to distill what is your value that you can quickly communicate in one sentence. That's been done extremely well in this case. And therefore, I'm going to say they can get away with a lazy ass first sentence. Been hearing killer things about company names, so I had to reach out. That's played out in 2020. You send that to me, I know I'm 1 out of 1,000 people who got that message. But they get away with it.
That's right.
Because the value is there.
Yeah, so that's a freaking good point I wanted to make as well, which is how would you actually send such email if you only had 200, you're just starting out?
Well, you would have to take a much different approach. And in that case, you may then need to lean on, okay, if you're not going to have a big list, maybe you're going to say, I'm going to put up $500 to promote this using Facebook ads so that we're going to drive at least, 300 highly targeted people. All you have to do is tell me the job title and the kind of person you want to see this deal, and we're fronting the bill for, Facebook ad campaign. All right, that would be kind of interesting. But the point I'm making here is they would need to get creative at what that value would be if they did not have 1 million entrepreneurs to promote this to.
Yeah, the other interesting thing is I think this email relies a lot of people's interpretation, because you can have 850,000 entrepreneurs on your list, and yet only 5 are actually acting on the deal. I'm exaggerating here, but you know what I mean. It's like a vanity metric here, right there. Like you mentioned, they didn't say on average we sell millions of copies, 100,000s of licenses, or they didn't say like you mentioned the actual amount of money people make. Maybe they are not as rosy as you would expect. And so maybe that little like not saying and let people interpret and then make their own dream is actually maybe part of the story here.
I'm going to agree 100%, but not necessarily for that reason. I think this AppSumo campaign has the massive benefit that before this email gets opened, whenever someone sees Steve at appsumo.com, it's, oh shit, I know that company. They have brand recognition, and therefore we don't have to prove it to them. We don't need as much social proof to say we're legit, because I would imagine a good chunk of people already know about this company, which helps dramatically in building trust and getting that reply.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
So a lot of luxuries, I would say, are leveraged in this campaign. And that just, if you're listening saying, well, good for them, what do I take from it? It's, as a business owner, as a marketer, it is your job to position your company in this direction. That's what you're going for. You want to stack the deck in your favor so you don't actually have to be the best damn cold email copywriter on the history of the planet to get a response. You want things like a list of 1 million entrepreneurs that can quickly shock the prospect out of their chair and make them right back to you.
Yeah, so 2 things to that. You may have your own vanity metrics. It's a typical number of users versus the actual number of active users, or the number of users versus the number of paying users. So
yeah,
maybe there is a vanity metric here that you could be using.
It's true. It's true.
The second thing is, I'm really sorry, but I actually did reply in our first email.
I know.
Such a freaking rookie mistake.
Yeah.
So I don't have the rest of the sequence. So by all means, and I'm going to reach out to that person and ask them if they can just try that sequence on me again. But if you did receive that and you did receive the follow-up, please forward it to podcast@quickmail.io. I'll be happy to hear about it.
We know there's someone on this podcast who got that follow-up email, and we know you're listening to it right now, and you think I'm talking to you in your living room or in your car, and I am. So send it over and we'll add it to the sheet and we'll all learn more about cold email from it. Jeremy, anything else before we leave this template?
I would say that beside, the luxury that they have because of their positioning and their brand and everything like that, like you mentioned, they could have done like so much more. So I think what drawn me really is the no fluff, one single razor focus thing on one thing, and a very easy call to action. That makes it like, impossible. And in fact, I did reply, I say, hey, thanks. No thanks kind of thing, because I'm not interested in doing lifetime deals with my software, but I thought I was like worth a reply just right there. So I've been seduced.
Yeah, quality outreach.
That's right.
Yeah, and I know on a side note, AppSumo, I think, relied on cold email quite a bit to grow their company. They have a pretty cool case study that's worth Googling for. So all right, with that said, let's check out Teardown numero dos. It's from a podcast called The Top. And I'll go ahead and read it.
Yeah, so this one has been addressed to me, and there is a whole series actually from The Top. They're all really good in their own right, but we're going to pick one of them. And this one is really to get more guests on their podcast.
Cool. Which I will add before we dive in is a historically easy campaign to run, at least right now, in terms of expected reply rate. But with that said, I'm going to read this email. Subject is doing a story on you. Hey, first name, doing a story on product category. For Nathan Latka's The Top Business Podcast, parentheses, 5 million entrepreneurs, VCs, CEOs, listen, period. Want to come on for a brief 15 minutes to share your thoughts on the space and highlight where company name fits in the overall industry? For example, we've recently done some interviews with Foursquare, Sumo Logic, and Infusionsoft. Best regards. Signature. Previous guests include Matt Mullenweg, Andy Rachleff, and Tim Draper. It'll be worth your time. Booyah.
The booyah has been added by Josh.
Yeah, sorry. I realized that could have been interpreted otherwise. Yeah, my booyah. Jeremy, your thoughts?
Yeah, I liked it. It's definitely less polished than the AppSumo one. Definitely something that AppSumo could have done. Previous people included, or previous company were XYZ. So here it's a little bit less polished. They could also have done the same vanity metrics.
What do you mean less polished?
Oh, that's a good question. I think less polished in terms of the simplicity of the message into one thing.
Less refined. Right. They have a couple of angles.
Exactly. So here they're trying to be a bit broader into, targeting or communicating about their sort of value proposition to some extent. And so what they could have done in the top is, I know they have like really millions of downloads. So they could have do the same way as AppSumo did. It's like, care to share your thoughts in front of, or care to put your company in front of X million, listeners, for example. That could have sort of worked very well.
Good point.
So they could have used the same tactic of AppSumo, but they decided to do a slightly different approach. And I think, like I just said, it's like probably less refined, but still, I think, very good.
Fair enough. So there is a follow-up that I will read shortly, but I'm going to point out the call to action is actually in a strange order, in my opinion. So I know you're on your Peloton right now. You can't actually see the copy in front of us, or you're on coldoutreachtemplates.com and you can. But it says, want to come on for a brief 15 minutes. And then the last line is, for example, we've recently done episodes with that, best regards. So I'm thinking like, that's weird. I mean, look, the important thing, and hopefully the theme of this teardown is, if you got the goods, you can get away with a whole lot of mistakes in cold email and still get a reply. The goods in this example being exposure to 5 million entrepreneurs. But I would never end on a, for example, after I mentioned the call to action above it. It doesn't make sense to me. That's not how like your prospect is going to read stuff and then do something. You want that do something to come at the end. That's why, I don't know, you'd never read an advertisement and have a call to action in the middle and then they just ramble for the last 5 seconds of the spot. It doesn't make sense. So that's my big takeaway.
Yeah, it is odd.
And last thing, it's not crystal clear. Like I read the first sentence, doing a story on category space for this top podcast. It has 5 million entrepreneurs, VC CEOs listen, but like, just the way that sentence is phrased, it is far less effective. It doesn't, punch me in the face with, wow, I can get in front of 5 million entrepreneurs. Like, perfect example, the AppSumo did quite well. Now, I should read the follow-up email because finally they get it right in this second touch. And it comes after 3 days. It says, doing a story on you. And then it just reads, interview is 15 minutes long. You reach 5 million CEOs and entrepreneurs. Game ? Perfect.
You know what's funny, Jack?
What?
Is that you only got like one follow-up because that's the one I replied to. I didn't reply to the first one.
Why not?
So that's a great point. I did not reply on the first one. I replied on the follow-up, which is super clear on the follow-up, right?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, 15 minutes, 5 million listeners, your game. It's cool.
Exactly. And I think clarity killed them in that first message. It's almost like they had a benefit that was 5 times more powerful than AppSumo's 850,000 people, but you replied to it, and most would, because they were so clear about it. And this failed to be as direct, as transparent. And that's why it's an inferior cold email in my book.
I agree with that. I think the fact that they mentioned something after the call to action is more like that stuff like, but wait, there is more. That's the sort of like, please don't go away. There is more. And then it keeps on piling up new things. That's why I say it was less refined. Like they could probably have just stick with just one thing, been super fine. And then in a follow-up mention like other founders, like those ones actually went on a podcast.
Exactly.
Basically splitting those sort of like different point or different angles.
And I will say as a marketer or a sales VP or a CEO, your job is to be very clear and hopefully bring data to this question of which value do you lead with? Because that's going to have a huge impact in your success with outbound. Is you need to know what's going to pull the prospect out of their zombie-like state and actually do something about it. I'm going to ding them on one more thing. And I mention this in almost every consult I have with an organization that wants to do a better job with outreach. But basically, there's repetition in the follow-up. So just I'm looking at the follow-up here. It says, interview is 15 minutes long. You reach 5 million CEOs and entrepreneurs. Game. All of that stuff was mentioned in email 1. It only works in this follow-up because it's clearly stated there. However, I think it's lazy to say the same stuff in a follow-up. Now, one thing they could have done is use a little bit of scarcity here. Imagine they said something like this. Hey, we're finalizing the guest list for the rest of the third quarter podcast. Love to have you on there if you'd like. What are your dates open for XYZ? That way there's something new that's brought into the table.
Love it.
In my opinion, it would have made this a stronger campaign, assuming that those benefits are crystal clear in the first touch.
Absolutely love it. This is such a great comment. The funny thing is like, it's a bit like the roles are inverted.
What do you mean?
You notice that? Jack is
Oh,
bashing
I'm
the
bashing.
emails, and
I'm
I'm like
bashing.
praising them.
Wow,
But
that's
I'm gonna give
true.
another prize. Actually,
Are you feeling okay, Jeremy?
Yeah, I know. It's funny, isn't it? The subject line is actually amazing because it's all about me. Notice they didn't say anything that concerned them. It's just like a story on me. So, I'm the star. It's like a little bit of an ego trip. And I can understand that being way more successful than actually, doing the sort of like me kind of email. So I think that's a good thing here to keep in mind. And the last thing I would say is like, if you obviously make the email clearer, the ratio between the ask and the value is enormous as well. It's like 5 million audience versus 15 minutes of your time. This is just amazing, right?
Yeah, they should have knocked it out of the park with this campaign. And they probably did, but maybe not.
And final thing I would say on this email is that it makes me think a little bit about, that Karate Kid that always get all those patches, like, he has to have the belt, he has to have like 5 different, patches so it looks like he's legit.
The badges, yeah.
Where the actual master, the one has like no badge, just like one belt that is almost white because he used it and teared it so much and he doesn't really care. So I guess if you lean more on the master side when you have so much credibility that you don't need to expose all those things, which is again what AppSumo just did very well.
Oh yeah. All right. Lots of booyahs in this episode. We've got one more teardown coming at you. Anything last comments on your side before we move on to the last one, Jeremy?
Yeah, I think we'll send a check to AppSumo for all the incredible advertisement I just did them in this episode.
Yeah, exactly. Or send them a bill. Send them an invoice, right?
Yes. That's the one. Sorry.
All right, cool. So we've got a backlink cold email coming at you. This one was on my request. I have a feeling the roles are going to switch here on who does the bashing, but let's find out. Subject line reads as follows. Quick question about your website, and then the very first subject line emoji in any teardown we've ever done. It's
That's right.
A white girl with a hand raised in the air. That's the emoji being used. And it reads, "Hi there. Name here, head of growth at a company that does blah, blah, blah. I know you're busy, so I'll be quick. I saw your post."
That's a good excuse for people to actually just watch the website. It's the teardown of Albacross. Yeah.
Albacross. All right. I almost didn't read it because it was hard to pronounce. Albacross, a sales intelligence software that helps companies learn more about their anonymous website visitors, convert them into leads. I know you're busy, so I'll be quick. I saw your post, insert blog post, and well, we recently wrote an article, B2B sales, the best strategies for 2020, that I think fits in perfectly. Any chance you'd consider adding it to your article? Only if you'd find it useful, of course, question mark, all in bold, that sentence. And in exchange, I'm happy to share your article on our social media accounts with a list of 9,000 followers. Heart, let me know what you think. Stay awesome. Whew. All right, let me start.
And the heart is an emoji as well.
That's right. Okay, so I'm going to kick this off because you've been going first the last two. This one's got a my request. Here's what I think about it. Well, after considering the first two templates had about 1 million and 5 million audience members to promote you in front of, their 9,000 follower list sure sounds a whole lot, pretty lame. However, if you're going to do backlinking, that's a great idea. If you actually put the backlink, they're going to sort of quid pro give you a shout out on their social media account. And I thought that was a really clever way to give back to those that take the trouble to add the backlink. Kudos, I'm a big fan of doing that. They've figured out how to sprinkle in some value, which is very hard to do in a backlinking campaign. Very hard to do, right? What I don't like was how they started off the email. It says, name here, head of growth, blah, 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 all about my company. Now, before we interviewed Derek Sivers, I would have been like, never start off with anything about yourself because that's a waste of time and people don't care. However, I'm a believer now that context helps if you use it correctly. That doesn't give you an excuse to say, hi, I'm Title at this company where we do. That's a sales pitch. Save it for your demos. Instead, I would have liked to see this person say, hey, by the way, it says hi there. Did they really say hi there? It needs to say first name, for crying out loud.
They did. They could have said howdy. It would have been as bad.
Totally agree. What happened there, guys? Anyways, moving on because that's such a brain dead fix. All of our listeners already are adding first names, so it doesn't matter. But what I wanted them to say to kick this off was, hey, Jeremy, I've been binging on the Cold Email Outreach podcast, and I saw your post about X. That would have been much better. Much better. Or, okay.
Of course.
Let's say you're not that good. Let's say you're like, a little better than mediocre. You could have said, hey, I've been nerding out on topic, cold email in this case. Hey, I've been nerding out on cold email lately and saw your post on subject, right? That's something that you can and should do. Just take 1 minute per prospect on your backlinking campaign. If you do that, you'll probably double your response rate by adding this kind of personalization. And there's studies that back up this 2x increase in replies. And that just completely will change the tone of the email. That's all I have to say. Jeremy, what do you got?
Hey, this is a great teardown you just did on your own. I'm kidding.
And we can move on.
No, I figured it was awesome. It was really good. A few things I'd like to say. Emoji actually got me. And it's surprising because I'm not really this Generation X kind of thing, but I did like it. It was kind of refreshing, and I like the small heart. So, I'm a softie sometimes. That was well used. I think the emoji was well used. It was well supportive of the message and not necessarily trying to, bash in my face. Usually you got the emoji at the beginning of a sentence, which I don't like. But here it was at the end, sort of like afterthought, like, here's my mood or here's my tone. And I think I like that. I think for setting the tone, emoji are great.
All right, good comment. Anything else before we quickly get through the follow-up after 6 days?
Yeah, hold on. I just started my stuff.
Oh, shit.
So totally agree with you. Way too long intro. They almost lost me. In fact, I think they could have benefited tremendously by just trimming it down drastically. That's why they put it in bold. Guys, if you find yourself having to bold one sentence in a sea of text, it's because your email is not clear enough. So,
applause. That's brilliant. Love it.
It's a simple thing. It's just like, just look. If you do that, you need to focus and have something clearer, shorter, more to the point, with less fluff. The strategy, I like it. I tried it, backfired. The guy just asked me, $700 a month to be in the top 3. Well, screw you. Yeah. So anyway, but I'm sure it does work. I love your suggestion about like, hey, they've been binging on, cold email outreach. Guys, if you can't afford like 1 minute per, backlink you're requesting, you're probably going for the volume, and that's probably not going to work so well in the end.
Agreed.
So the last thing I would say about this thing is that I think the call to action is too weak. Like, let me know what you think. There's no question mark. There's no, I think it will benefit from being a bit stronger, and that's why I didn't reply to this email, actually. And that's why I got the follow-up 6 days later.
Fair enough. Just do a Control F on your cold email campaign and type in, let me know what you think, or I know you're busy, so I'll be quick, and replace it with nothing, because it adds nothing and it'll save your prospect a line of text to read. These people are busy. I just had a baby. I don't got time for all that stuff. I'm sleep deprived and I need to get through my inbox. So yeah, that's my take. Let's look at the follow-up that happened 6 days later, which, by the way, it's a little bit longer than I like to send a follow-up message.
Yeah, I was surprised. I was surprised as well. But
6 days later, what are you thinking your people are doing that it's going to take 6 days to get back? I mean, I'd shorten that down by...
Well, I need to let them know. So, obviously I need to think about it. And maybe in 6 days, I got the reply, right?
We calls to action needs 6 days. All right, here it goes. It says, hi there. Hope you got my last email. I really appreciate it if you can share your thoughts with us. Name. Blah. Although I need to go puke in a corner really quick.
Yeah, definitely not the greatest one. They still haven't learned my first name after 6 days, so I was a little bit disappointed on this one.
Yeah, I'll make a comment. I don't think that's really a downside from the cold emailer necessarily. I think not having your first name is a downside of the data source they're using. So,
for sure,
if you are reaching out to marketing@blog.com, you probably won't easily be able to get that person's first name. And that's a data problem. That's not really a cold email problem. You should have a system in place that will find every first name and not marketing at blog.com. It should be somebody at blog.com. That's a data problem that needs to be fixed because human beings should not have to look that up. This needs to be taken care of way before you write the email.
Can I actually inject a small tactical hack for our listeners right there?
No, I think we should probably wrap up the episode. Yes.
All right, sorry.
School us.
Oh yeah, so here's what you can do, guys, if you have, no name at that company and you have a little bit of time. Just sign up for their newsletters. And on the first newsletter, you just reply, because usually that'd be marketing at whatever, and just mention something very vague about like, hey, love your content. Just need to ask you one question. Who should I contact? Something super short like that, because usually we'll come with the human being at the end. I did that. Well, today, actually, I did the same thing, taking an old email that I received from one of the salesperson. And I say like, hey, used to know this person at this company. That person's not there anymore. Who should I contact for doing that? And then just reply to me. It's just like, you can even actually just use someone who actually worked at that company, and that works as well. But anyway, you didn't hear that from me.
Right. And this is the difference between someone who's going to get beyond a 20% reply rate, who's willing to do the legwork to make this campaign succeed, and then the lazy way, which is high there. And they're probably less than 5% response if the value hasn't been crystal clear. So takeaways, because, we did nothing but bash this follow-up because there was nothing good about it. But so you are smarter and can do better cold email because of this episode, I will say, mix it up. A follow-up should add something new to the table. Do I sound like a broken record yet? If there's a time crunch, if there's a new benefit, if you have suddenly 10,000 social media followers that you can reach out to, if there's been an update, say something that will hook them because your first message did not. That's it from me. Anything from you?
No? Perfect.
Booyah. 3 booyahs, 3 teardowns.
Jack, awesome cast. Just before we end, can you repeat to our listeners where they can find the templates, and if they have any great templates that they'd like to share with us and maybe the listeners as well, where they can send that?
If you got a great template, send us an email at podcast@quickmail.io. And if you want to see all the templates we covered on the cast, plus some extras that, in my opinion, are really damn good, but we just didn't have time to get to, check out coldoutreachtemplates.com.
There you go.
Mic drop. All right, Jeremy, thanks for the cast.
Thanks for the cast, Jack.
Bye. Hey, cold emailer.
Yeah, you.
If you got some value from this episode, give us a high five by sharing a 2-sentence review on iTunes.
Or Stitcher, or TuneIn. That works too.
It's a quick way to help other growth-minded folks like us find this podcast
so they can send awesome emails
and make everyone's inbox a better place. Thanks.